What's up, bikers? I'm Robert. This is the B1KER Bar Podcast, episode 124. I'm stoked today. We have 7 iDP on the show, and Jason's going to tell us all about the company and how that came to be. But before we get to that, let's do these things. Do me a favor. Follow me on Instagram. I know you're all not following me on Instagram because if you were, my numbers would be higher than they are. That's the bottom line. And those of you that are still holding out on Facebook, you're like in the over 40 crowd or over 50. I don't know who it is that uses Facebook. I know it's us old guys. So if you're over there, you don't do the Instagram. You're like, hey, I'm not doing this new technology shit. Follow me on Facebook. For some reason, that number will not go over 1,000. It'll get as close to 1,000 as possible and then go away again. So I don't know if you guys are like passing away or just like giving up on Facebook, finally jumping off. I don't know. Whatever it is, go to the Facebook over at B1KER B1 and give it a follow, or the Instagram. Those of you that have wondering why I'm not going on Sunday all the time anymore, I keep forgetting to mention this, so I want to do it real quick. Basically, I'm just trying to manage my life happiness, and every Sunday always being a podcast in the middle of the day kind of makes it hard to go camping and do different things. And then also sometimes it's just easier for the people that I'm talking to not have to be on Sunday either. So I have gone with this new method of let them decide what works best for them and I'll work around it. And what that means to you is if you're a person that likes to watch on YouTube, then you should definitely hit the subscribe button and definitely hit the bell for notifications, because I always post the stream a day or two beforehand. And that way you'll know, hey, I can make that one or I can't. Otherwise, if you're just here like trolling along and every once in a while you listen to one, just hit the subscribe button. It'll just make me happy to see that number grow. Thumbs up if you enjoy the content. If you guys really want to help the channel, do me a favor, swing by Patreon. It's as cheap as $1 or as expensive as you want it to be. So it really does help the channel. It helps, pay for me to buy stuff to test. It pays for camera gear. What did I just buy the other day? Oh, I bought a new Rode wireless mic so that I can actually talk to somebody while riding and capture it. So those are the things that the people on Patreon are helping out with. So with all that being said, I really appreciate all you guys being here. We're going to bring Jason back online. How's it going, Jason?
Hey, Robert. Good. How you doing?
Not bad, man. It's Friday. I'm stoked. Next week I'm going on vacation. So it's a good day.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you, man? How's this week been treating you?
A little hectic. So yeah. I was on vacation last week and family vacation, which always makes things more hectic. And
right.
My little girl woke up sick Monday, puking.
Oh, no.
Good to hear. And I had to end up extending the day, getting stuck in a hotel room. While she was recovering with no rental car because that got returned. And so it was just interesting to go out.
Yeah, that's definitely kids always seem to get sick at like the most inopportune times, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so can you give everybody a little heads up on like what your tie is to 7 iDP and what you do over there, and then we can go from there?
Yeah. Yep. So I'm actually one of the owners of, so our parent company is Union Sport Group.
Mm-hmm.
We actually own 3 different brands under that: Royal Racing, 7 iDP or 7 Protection, and also Tag Metals. 7 iDP is our focus brand, I'd say, our main brand. And so, yeah, I'm one of the owners. I run our U.S. operations. We also have an office over in the U.K., and my business partner runs the operations over there.
So was 7 iDP a thing before the rest of that, or did it kind of all get like made at once, or how did that happen?
It's an interesting story, and I'll try to give you the short version of it.
We got plenty of time. You can whatever version you want, man.
I can start talking and keep going, but
perfect.
So I worked at another protection brand back in the day, and my business partner ran their European operations. And that company got bought out by an investment group. And when that happens, a lot of times, things change, and you got non-bike people coming in and, thinking they know the bike industry better than everybody else there.
Right.
And things weren't going the way that I was like, and I actually called a meeting with the new CEO because that's who I reported to there. I was in management. Sat in a conference room with him for 3 hours discussing the future of the brand, the company, his visions. And the original owner of that company brand was waiting outside the conference room for me. And he said, I need to get out. He says, you need to get out of here. You need to start your own company. I told him, I'm like, that sounds insane. I'm like, I don't know anything about running a company. I don't have millions of dollars sitting around. I don't have rich parents. I don't know how to even start a company, especially with my means. And funny enough, a few weeks later, I heard Martin over in the UK, who said running the European operations, was trying to buy Royal Racing from that company because that was owned under that umbrella. And I ended up over in Germany a few weeks later for Eurobike, told Martin, hey, let's do this. I want to go in on it too. So we ended up starting Union Sport Group by buying Royal Racing and doing that. When we split off on our own, we had a lot of our former customers and distributors asking us, when are you guys going to do protection? When are you going to do protection? Because that's what we came from. And we had non-competes that were out there that we had to wait through. But we were working on things in the background with the plans of launching protection. So
Royal Racing, just for people that aren't familiar, is more of an apparel line, right?
Correct. Yep. So Royal Racing, jerseys, shorts, gloves. We still own that brand. It's still out there. Funny enough, we don't do it out of our U.S. operations anymore. It was a decision I made about 2 years ago to put our focus on 7.
Got it. Okay.
So
sorry to curtail you there a little bit. So anyways.
No worries. I'm good at doing that myself.
Yeah.
Basically we were waiting for the time, and it's something that we had planned really from day one, because we had some new ideas. We felt there was some new things that could be done in protection, and it could be done better. And we did do it. We did know it very well. Our customers were asking for it before we even did it. And so that's how 7 came about. And it launched originally with just a few knee pads and a few elbow pads. The helmets came a little bit later on, and that was kind of an interesting story, because at the time that we started 7, I actually had 2 companies that I was running. And one of them was
so from the guy that doesn't know how to do a business, now he's got 2.
I do. And that was that kind of happened by accident too, but it worked out for a while. That was being partnered up with a European brand of helmets, and we were basically a North, South, and Central American distributor and representative of the brand from marketing and things. But that brand wasn't going real well for us, and helmets worried me a lot. And we actually launched into 7 with what we call an open mold helmet. So it wasn't our own design. And I thought it was the worst thing ever. I thought it was a terrible, terrible idea. And, we've never been secretive about it. We're open about it. That's what me saying it, it sounds like something we're trying to hide.
Right. So that's basically like you contact a company that makes helmets. You say, hey, I want to put a helmet, and they're like, here's a design. And you just throw some logos on it and some colors. And
essentially. And it's not even always exclusive to us too.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a horrible, horrible idea because, one, we put a lot of thought into 7, the knee pads and elbow pads, and wanted something unique. But Martin convinced me, and we moved forward on helmets, starting out with open mold. And he loves to rub it in my face to this day, because helmets are actually one of our bigger category. It's our biggest category, dollar-wise. And the thought process behind it was, 1, to test the waters because of my bad experience with the other helmets. And it was completely the opposite experience from that one. And 2, developing helmets, 1, takes a lot of time, and 2, is very expensive. The tooling on a helmet can cost more than tooling on a carbon bike frame.
Oh, wow.
And just it's time. Like our first helmet that we launched a market of our own design was a 3-year development process. and lots of money in tooling. So it gave us a way to test the waters, make sure that investment was worth it, see if we could have a name in helmets. And yeah, helmets, again, it's our biggest category, with the exception of last year because of supply chain issues. The knee pad category actually surpassed it here in the US.
Interesting.
But yeah, so then we're working on growing the brand and branching out, and it was knee pads, elbow pads first, then the helmets. Gloves we did before, but we weren't really happy with them, so we took a little bit of time off, and we just relaunched this year with a new glove line.
So when you said that you guys wanted to do 7 with some things that you saw that you wanted to address that you could do differently, what were those things that you were looking at then compared to what was on the market?
Well, I think, even so, pads were always before, like back in my pre-protection brand days, the other brand I was with, it was more of a downhill thing. And there was a transitioning that was coming where, okay, people are trail riding, bikes are getting more capable, and you needed a pad that you could ride in more often. And other brands started coming out with lighter weight pads that were more flexible, more comfortable to wear, cooler. But there was issues with them. And the biggest issue that we saw, or one of the bigger issues we saw, is that pads didn't stay in place. And they would slide down, or you'd see people climbing with their pads down around their ankles, their shins, or whatever, run them up because they weren't going to stay up on the climbs anyway, or they got hotter. So we wanted to address that thing of the pad staying up, but still being comfortable and still being lightweight and breathable. So we didn't want a lot of, it was there was a lot of neoprene pads. They were starting to move to more Lycra, but there's still a lot of neoprene from brands. One of the first brands to do a lightweight pedal-friendly pad, their pad, and still to this day, their one model doesn't meet a CE certification of any kind, where all of our pads are CE certified. We actually do more CE level 2 pads than any other brand in the world right now. And the great thing about it is...
Could you real quick explain what that certification is so people understand?
Yeah. So this is interesting because this went, in my days of product development at a previous brand, CE was coming about over in Europe. In the US, there's no certification for protection, pads, elbow pads, body armor, like there is in Europe. Europe, you have to meet a certification just like you do helmets here.
Okay. So it's like an ANSI kind of thing, but for pads.
Yep. And what it is, the CE, at first it was really challenging when they first started doing CE, because to meet the standards, step back a little bit, there's no CE certification for bikes per se. So what they do, the CE organization, whatever you call it, they pick what they think is the next closest sport. And it was street bike motorcycle racing, like street motor.
Yeah.
And it's a different world than
right.
But the CE certification basically says, and there's a level 1 and a level 2. It's how much area it needs to cover for certain areas that you're trying to protect, and also how much energy is allowed through. So level 1 is the basic CE certification, and I can't remember what the cutoff is between level 1 and level 2. Not that it matters much.
Yeah, right. So it's basically like I can bump into this thing, or I can like smash my knee into it as like Mach.
Yeah.
Like so somewhere in between there.
Right. Yeah. And level 2 is the higher
right
certification level. And
got it.
So that's why I say, we do a lot of pedal friendly stuff in CE level 2. But just change of materials, venting, getting rid of, this is a crazy one that we still struggle with to this day, is we don't do straps on the majority of our product. And we do a lot of events. We go and demo, we have a trailer and we go to these demo events, really enjoy them, let people try the product and try to educate them on it. But we do different things with our designs where you don't need those straps. And those straps, it's just an extra layer that, one, can cause discomfort, and two, it blocks airflow. So it makes it warmer. If you have material folding over. So the majority of our product is slip-on, and it just allows a nice thin sleeve. We still have people at the demo events come up and they'll look at our display and I'm not really interested. You don't have straps, and they'll show me the pads they're wearing that are slid halfway down their knee. And yeah, I have these that don't have straps and they don't stay in place.
Yeah.
Tell them, what the difference is between ours and theirs. And then say, you don't have to trust me. You can go buy a pair for free and it's your thoughts. And it's, everybody that comes back is like, oh my God, these are amazing. They didn't move. I've kind of forgot it that I even had them on. And
yeah,
so that's our big advantage, I think, and what we were looking to achieve in designing and developing our line of protection when we first started out.
Right. So when you initially started, then it was just, you said knee pads and elbow pads, which I really thought it was interesting the way that you were saying, you kind of saw that change coming, because as a guy that, I'm mid 40s. So as a guy that grew up, in a time where, you made fun of the kid in the street that had to wear a helmet, it's like a lot of us, grew up mountain biking, as the sport was growing, and nobody wore pads. So even for me to get to the point where I started wearing knee pads, it really took I don't know how many accidents of having my elbows and my knees just pulverized, until I started to accept it. So as a brand, to notice that was coming and seeing that, that's pretty rad,
Yeah. And that's I'm the same way. I grew up, I'm an old school BMX racer, rider.
Yeah.
We had dirt jumps in my backyard. I grew up back east. You said you were from Pennsylvania too, right?
Yeah, I am. Oh, you're from PA?
I am. Yeah.
Oh, right. Where at?
I'm from southeastern side. The town I actually grew up in, nobody probably ever heard of. I always tell people that don't know the area that I'm from, Philly. I actually grew up in a small town called Wind Gap.
Oh, okay.
Below the Poconos.
Oh, okay. I know where the Poconos are for sure, but Wind Gap I'm not so sure about.
Halfway between Philly and New York City. When I fly back to visit parents,
yeah,
I can fly into either airport and same drive.
I always like to tell people I'm from South Central PA. It just makes me sound
makes you sound gangster.
Yeah, it just makes me sound rough, man.
So South Central
originally. So
where at?
York, like the peppermint patty.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So just north of Baltimore, basically.
There was a big BMX thing back in the day. Dorks from York.
Oh yeah, probably.
I was a big BMX person back in the day, but yeah, same thing. Dirt jumping.
Yeah.
Work no helmet unless you needed it, and
yeah. I remember distinctively there was an accident that I had. And it hasn't been that long. I would say it's probably within the last 5 years. And I remember laying in bed that night. I had both my knees wrapped up and both my elbows so that I wouldn't be bleeding all over the sheets through the night.
Yeah.
And I just remember laying there watching TV and then thinking, what the hell are you doing, dude? Seriously, just put pads on, Yeah. And since then I've used a lot of different pads, and it's one of those things now where even on the rides where I'm I don't need pads for this. I'm oh, I feel like this is the one time where I'm going to do whatever. And so they're basically knees and elbows. I pretty much wear them all the time. I also get poison oak a lot. So having that extra layer between is it really works out. And yeah.
I don't ride without knee pads. It's if I don't have my knee pads, it's I don't have my helmet, which without a helmet anymore. And I said they're just, to me now, they've come a long way. They're so much more comfortable. Stay in place. And now here in Colorado, our rides are you start at the bottom and you climb for 40 minutes or an hour.
That's a California ride too. I'm in Northern California now. And 100%, dude. You just get out, climb for 45 minutes and descend for 5 or 10 and do it again,
But I throw my pads on at the beginning of the ride and ride in them the entire time. I don't slide them down, and they're just to me they're comfortable, and you don't think about them once you have them on.
So I had a set of Fox pads that I really liked, the Enduro ones, and I was in Phoenix riding before Sedona. I think this was last year, and I took this spill, and when I took the spill, the knee pad, hit the first rock, did its job, But as my body was twisting, the knee pad slid, and the next rock that I hit, I cut my leg open pretty good because the whole pad shifted, right?
Right.
And I ended up buying a set of your Sam Hill pads.
Yep.
And when I put those on, I was instantly like, man, I wish I had these like a day ago, because the protection on those for a pull-up pad is really, really good. Like there's a lot of pad itself, and then there's like additional foam pad, let's just say, outside of the body forming gelish part. I don't know how to explain it, but and it really gives a really good wide protection path, but it's still a super breathable knee pad. Like you can put it on, ride all day, and it's really impressive how you guys pulled that together. That partnership, did you have that design kind of together before you started working with Sam Hill, or how did that go?
So that one, and the Sam Hill is my favorite. It's the one I ride in. I always tell people I probably ride it 99% of the time, and I ride in knee pads all the time. So it was loosely based off of the transition knee pad, and they're very similar. The main difference is the wraparound, but through the development of the Sam Hill knee pad, we ended up changing a few other things with just the construction, and we made those changes to the transition then too. But it started off as an idea around the transition and working with Sam to kind of bring more of what he was looking for. And we knew we wanted something with more coverage on the side for, I use my knees when I ride a lot against a seat, or sometimes you just bang against the top tube. And it's something that we wanted. And then in talking to Sam about it, he was on the same page. So we did that back and forth with him to get to where the Sam Hill knee pad is. And I said it did prompt a few little changes within our transition knee pad that we did as a running change too, because we changed the design a little bit internally. Even it's a sleeve. It sounds simple, but we did some other things on it to help keep it in place better through all that development with Sam. So yeah, it was a little bit of both. Kind of working hand in hand with them.
I don't know if it's just where I've looked to shop, but as far as the elbow pads in that set, it's like Sam Hill Light. Is there a not light version of the elbow pads, or was there plans for that?
Well, the transition elbow pad is what we say goes along with the Sam Hill knee pad.
Oh, okay.
The Sam Hill knee pad is a level 2 knee pad. I don't want to say any names or anything, but the F word that you mentioned earlier, they don't do a level 2 in their line at all.
Okay.
So the Sam Hill is a level 2, so it is actually more protection than what you were using previously.
Yeah.
Plus with the wraparound, it gives you a little bit extra protection. So in the elbow, the transition elbow is what really matches up with the Sam Hill knee pad, being a level 2, that 3D molded cup inside. On the elbow, we didn't feel the need to do the wraparound, to have an additional model with that extra protection, because a lot of times when you crash on your elbow, you're hitting your elbow. You're not banging it against frames and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like you are with the
right.
So
does the other one match? I'm all about the matchy, man. If it doesn't match,
yeah. See, I shouldn't say this being a part owner in a protection brand. I'm not a big elbow fan. Elbow pad fan. And I'll have to say I've tried so many brands over the years through development and just testing and things like that. And the Sam Hill Light is the elbow pad I wear when I do wear elbow pads. Isn't very often, but bike park days, what bike park I'm at, I'll throw some elbow pads on. And I like the slim, kind of streamlined, you don't notice it's there type fit and feel to it.
I would say for me, when I wear them, which is most of my rides, it's just because I've had these accidents where, on these huge, like big rock rolls or something like that, where I feel like I would have shattered my elbow by the way that I fell by just slamming it into something. And then outside of that, it also gives you that like little bit of forearm protection where I have a buddy like on every couple of weeks basis, he's got these like huge, like, took all the skin off his forearm scratches.
Right.
And I'm always telling him, dude, just wear an elbow pad. Like, it's not like you're like, all you're going to do is rip your pad instead of your skin. And you keep doing this, it's like, to me, those are the kind of the reasons that I wear them most of the time.
Yeah.
The like kind of extra benefit is that, that poison oak protection that I was talking about.
Yep.
I will say one of the things out of elbow pads that I've worn, the ones that go higher into your armpit are the ones that I prefer more than others, because I've really found that like what happens if you get these short ones, I end up getting like sunburn on the back of my tricep, or it just looks stupid. Like, it just kind of looks dumb, like aesthetically you look like weird. Like you got a t-shirt on and a little patch of skin and then your pad. And I don't know. I like those other ones that are higher. I just feel like they stay in place better. And and then my other reasons are just like purely aesthetic. Like it doesn't look as bad. So
and that's that's one of the things. It's a good point. And we don't go as long as the elbow pads as what we do on our knee pads. But our knee pads, that's one of the design features that helps them stay up really well, is we do longer. And there's other brands that are starting to follow our lead now on that. But the way legs are shaped, if you have that short sleeve, you get down on the end of your quad there, and if it slides at all, there's nothing holding anymore. Where at the longer sleeve, you get up to where your leg is a more consistent diameter, and it just helps those pads stay in place so much better on the leg. And on top of that, if you wear a short liner, ours are designed, you're actually supposed to pull the pad up first, so that's against your skin, pull the short liner over top of the pad.
That's typically how I wear mine.
Yeah, and that's what helps them stay up. Arms are a little bit different shape because they almost funnel down, from top to bottom.
Right.
Over the sleeve definitely helps that a little bit just by having more surface area there, the pad against your arm. But yeah, that was one of the big things with knee pads, was to do the longer sleeve to help with that. Even the bottom sleeve of our knee pads, like it goes down below the protection more than it has to, but that's designed that way to be, you can use that as an adjustment. So you just take that bottom cuff and slide it up, and it gets tighter in your legs and really holds those knee pads in place well.
Yeah, I know some guys will kind of tend to pull the back of their pad like on the higher side of their calf.
Yeah.
So that it really like locks it more into place. So
yeah.
How do you guys choose what like rubbery material is on the inside of the pad itself to kind of help pull it into place? I've noticed with some brands, I don't know if I have some kind of like aversion to latex or something like that, but like some brands of the knee pads and elbow pads that I've worn, whatever that rubber is, like when I'm wearing it all day long, it'll irritate my skin, where other brands don't. Like, is there anything, is it you just kind of like,
how do you choose the rubber and not the material? Because I know people that have like neoprene allergies and things like that.
But wouldn't that would irritate like everywhere, right?
Yeah, depending on the construction of the.
Yeah. To me, I think it's whatever the rubber is, because I feel like that's what it, I don't know, because it's like only where that band is, like the top band would be like what bothers me. And I have another friend that I was talking to about it, and he had mentioned he has a similar issue. So I wasn't, but I don't notice it with all brands. And off the top of my head, I don't think I had a problem with yours, but I'm just trying to like understand, how that comes about. Is it like a standard of what people choose, or
No. So there's three main manufacturers of the type of padding that hardens on impact. And then some of them will even do, like, you'll see some brands where they'll call it their own thing, and some of the I'm going to call it the padding brands out there allow you to do that. You can change shapes, colors, call your own thing. They don't care. Where other ones, they brand themselves, and they want their brand to be front and foremost. So I guess I can say D3O, everybody knows D3O, or and they're very good at branding. Like their brand is well known, where the other two more popular foams that harden on impact, they don't really care about their brand. They're just trying to make good foams, and
Yeah.
you can change it. We had the option on what we use, and for all of our pads, the foam padding inside is removable for washing.
Yeah.
Even maintenance, if you do something, damage it somehow in a crash, we can replace that for you, and you can swap that out. We chose the foam that we use solely based on performance.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted something that worked, and that's why we wanted every one of our pads to be CE certified, even our lightweight Sam Hill lights. And really, that was the main reason. There's no other.
Yeah.
And that's also one of the big reasons we have more CE level 2 pads than anybody else.
That's definitely interesting. The padding that you're talking about there is not what I was talking about. Having a reaction to is more like whatever latex is like woven into or sewn into the actual like band that holds it up or holds it
right.
like at the top of the leg.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like some different brands will have like, you'll see like little strips of like white kind of.
So the silicone gripper.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, that stuff for some reason. Because I don't think yours has that. Yours has more like it's into the material, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we have it. It's this little one here has a pad on the table. We do have silicone grippers on the top bottoms of the elastic bands that go across it. And it's a silicone. A little bit of the design can affect that comfort level too.
Yeah.
If you have too much of it, it definitely can get irritating on long days where it rubs on your leg. And also it's a little bit with the design of the pad itself. If you've got a little bit shorter sleeve or a sleeve that's a little looser and allows a little bit extra friction to be created in your leg, and that's going to create irritation.
So it could just be the movement then. It could not even be the material itself.
Yeah, well, it could be a little, it's how much material's there too. Like if you use too much of it, it's going to be, it can cause issues. We try to do thin little strips. That way it's not overbearing. So it's enough without creating that discomfort or friction burn, essentially, is what it really does.
That's interesting.
But as far as the materials itself, no, sorry, I thought you were talking about the protection padding.
No, it was rad to hear that though too. So that was pretty cool as well. I didn't really think about the companies that create the different foams. I kind of assumed that they were all the same, but I mean, obviously that doesn't make sense. So 3DO is actually a company itself on its own. It's not like specific to the. I'm thinking of the one brand that I see that written on all the time, but
So they're a brand, and they're probably the most recognized brand of the protective padding because they do a really good job of marketing. I was actually the first person to use that in mountain bike protection back at a previous company I worked at.
Oh, right on.
They approached us, and we went down the road of exploring it, and we were the first ones using that protection padding at a previous brand that I was doing product development at. And they give you all kinds of marketing material. They give you all kinds of hang tags to hang all over your pads if you're using it. And they do a great job of marketing for sure. And people know that and recognize it, which I think, might help some other brands just because they recognize that too, on top of the brand that they're possibly buying. But again, when we were starting Seven and discussing it and what the product was going to be and what our goals were for the product, we didn't want to compromise protection in any way, shape, or form. And it wasn't about trying to ride off of, a padding's brand, but just the best possible material. So you can pull our padding out and you can see the brand that it is. I got one loose over here, so it's all removable. This is what we use in the majority of our CE level 2 stuff, but this comes from a company called SaskTech, and all they do is make foam, padding that hardens on impact, and shapes. And again, they don't, the average person, other than if they pull these out or see them and some stuff, they just don't know this brand of padding.
Right.
Because this company doesn't care about marketing in their own brand.
Right.
Their goal is just to develop foams that protect really well.
Right. So they're a company, they probably make pads for like football uniforms and all kinds of other stuff as well.
All of them do a lot of different things. You know, I think D3O started out making, no, it wasn't D3O. But one of their big things was like cell phone cases back in the day. And,
Oh yeah.
you know, they do baseball stuff, different ones, like they do military stuff.
Does that material get messed up if it's like washed and dried, and like say somebody didn't realize they can take them out and they threw them in the washer?
No, water. Sorry, my East Coast accent there. Water. The water and soap doesn't really do much to it. It's more temperature. That'll
so
do
putting them
it.
in the dryer is really bad, or
No, it's more coldness than heat that causes any kind of issues. And all the materials are like that. They'll all harden a little bit. Any of the viscoelastic type, they're going to harden when it gets cooler. I wash my personal pads with the foam in it. I don't take it out. We suggest you take them out for washing. We suggest you hand wash. I do all the opposite.
yeah.
Part of it just kind of see how things hold up too.
Right.
Well, on my side. And I use the same pair of Sam knee pads for 2 years typically before I get myself a new pair. Which is kind of crazy considering I'm sitting here with a warehouse full of them.
Right.
But it just, they last me that long. So no, that's not really an issue washing them itself. The cold water will make it more brittle just because it does get a little bit harder when it's cold. But that's the only thing. Same thing, we tell people about these, and we have some people that will reach out to us sometimes and say, oh, my pads are really stiff or what have you, no winter. If you leave these in your garage or somewhere that's not heated, your car on a cold day, they get pretty solid.
Yeah.
You stick them in, just the windshield of your car, somewhere in the sun in your house. You put them on your body, they warm up and start getting really flexible again.
Yeah. The material reminded me a lot of the material that was on the Cali pads. I don't know if it's the same one or not, but like when I would explain it to my friends, I would say usually when you put them on, they're kind of hard, but as soon as your body warms them up, like they're super pliable. Where like maybe like the 3DO that's in the Fox ones, they don't have to, it doesn't seem like it has to warm up. But I mean, it's not, to me, it's if you understand that, you know what I mean? So like when I was in the shop testing it out, I put it on, in my head, it wasn't like, hey, I'm not buying these because they're stiff, but I can see somebody else possibly like coming to that conclusion and not realizing like, hey, it has to warm up. Like the AC's, rocking in this bike shop right now because it's 100 degrees outside, So, but that's definitely a good point to bring up, that the heat, warms them up and they definitely are a lot more pliable. I was just not sure if I was ruining them by throwing them in the washer, but seeing as how that's the way you're doing it. So
it is, like I said, our care instructions, we suggest you take it out. And like I said, every one of our pads, you can remove the foam padding.
I will say with the Sam Hill, the elbow pads, I would always question which way I was supposed to put them back in. I'd be like, is it the design, does it go this way or does it go that way? Like because there's like a material side and then there's like this weird honeycomb shaped side. Yeah. So does the material go to your elbow or away from your elbow?
So this part goes against your body.
Okay, the honeycomb bendy spot goes towards your body.
And it's for different reasons. So with this type of pattern that it has in it, if you fold it this way, it opens up more gaps. And this is pretty small pieces. It's not like big chunks of foam, but there's some other pads out there that use bigger square things, and you fold them back like this on your body, and it just opens up gaps for stuff, rocks, and things. So when it folds in like this, it closes all those gaps up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's designed for that part to be against your leg. So when you slip it into the pad, this would go towards the front outside of the pad.
Got it.
Go against your body. just but yeah, it's something, and they come that way, and you don't think about it, and it's maybe something we need to make a little more clear.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
just start ripping stuff out to throw it in the wash, and you don't pay
Yeah.
attention to how you
Just
rip it out.
print on their face towards enemy or something like that, right?
Yeah. I'm a weirdo. I'm kind of OCD, so I take stem bolts out of stems and I put them in the same hole they came out of.
Yeah, there you go. So you have a bunch of different. So the Sam Hill is the line particularly that we're talking about, but you have something that's more protective than that, something that's less protective than that.
Well, yes and no, because CE level 2 is the highest you can go as far as protection goes. But we have a few different things. The pad sitting over my left shoulder, no, right shoulder. I can't tell from the video screen here.
It doesn't matter for the people that are listening. So,
but we have our project knee pad.
uh-huh.
And that was released the same year as the Sam Hill knee pad. We actually won a design and innovation award for that at Eurobike that year. For that one, it's pretty unique to what's on the market. But again, it's a CE level 2. It has protection that surrounds it. The main difference between that and the Sam Hill, as far as protection goes, is that we do a soft, we call it a flexible hard shell.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost just like a harder rubber on the front of the kneecap there.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll still fit around your leg and give you a slim fit, but it does help a little bit when you're riding on, sharper, rocky type terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Help spread the forces out when your knee hits a rock like that. And it also allows you to slide a little bit easier when you hit the ground because of having more of that hard shell. So, yeah, as far as that goes,
what was the product line on that one?
The project.
Project.
Project
Okay.
B, yeah. Project
Yeah.
B. That one, another unique thing was the sleeve on that. So it's actually a compression material, and we designed it to have compression in certain directions in certain areas to give a nice snug fit, but not restrict you at all for pedaling. The material's a little thicker and a little bit more durable and probably a little bit warmer compared to the Sam Hill. We kind of use it as it's kind of that enduro to bike park pad. I think Matt Walker was running that one this past weekend when he won the World Cup.
Oh, nice
project for that.
Right on.
Yeah, so there's that, and then our flex knee is our downhill knee pad, and that has a full-on hard shell within the sleeve itself at the front of the sleeve. So it's a soft covering on it, but it's got a hard shell inside. And again, the idea behind that is on the rockier terrain, it just helps disperse the forces a little bit more of a pointy rock.
Do you make stuff down to like kids sizes, or is it all for adults, or?
No. So that's kind of interesting. We're actually one of the few. So we've been doing youth for a little while, but then we launched a kids range, and the kids range goes down to like a 2-year-old on a balance bike. I actually got one of those sitting in front of me here.
Oh wow! Right on.
Yeah, so it's a little thing, and it's interesting because our kids line, they're all CE certified, all the same level of certification as the adults. We don't cheap out on any materials. It's all the same exact thing as the adult line, just in a youth version. In kids, it's a little different because kids, there is no CE certification.
Right.
It just doesn't exist. So we can't say they're CE certified because it doesn't exist.
Right.
But yeah, we do kids' knees, kids' elbows. We do youth helmets for full faces. We even got some product. This is like one of the youth suits that we have. And again, this is something we designed with an enduro team of ours in the past. And
so those of you guys are listening, it's a shirt with a chest pad. It looks like some elbow or some shoulder kind of pad protection, and then a back plate on it as well.
Yeah. So it's our suit is what we call it. And again, it's all the same. It's got the little stash pockets in the back, like the adult version does, which the enduro team wanted for stashing extra parts and bottles and food. And it's got the removable back plate, the removable shoulder pad, so you can customize it. A little port for a hydration pack, a hose to come through it if you want to remove that back plate and put a hydration pack in there. And
oh wow! Okay.
Again, the youth it's got all the same features that the adult one has.
Well, that's pretty cool. So you could have a protection shirt that is carrying your bladder in it, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
For hydration, and then just wear your like regular jersey on top of it, and then you're like,
yeah. Yeah. So the flex suit's a tighter fitting suit, so it fits tight against your body, and you can stash stuff in it, including, like you said, a bladder with a hose coming out of a port.
That's pretty cool. Somebody asked earlier that there was a change in the back protection of the shirts.
Yeah. Yep.
They were wondering why that was, or was there a design reason, or just thought it looked cooler? Or?
Yeah, it was interesting actually. So what we did is we actually reduced the sizing of the back plate in the back. And it's funny because it was something our racers were looking for, because some of the EWSs, they're required to wear back protection, but they want, the slimmest, lightest back protection that they can get.
Right.
So we reduced the back plate to the CE minimum and for coverage. And, we did realize after the fact that that's not what everybody wants. And we were in a weird spot with it, because at the time, up until current time, we only have one suit. And it was this one that we did where, me personally, I like the smaller back protector. A lot of our riders were asking for that for the long stages they were doing and climbing and everything, where we started hearing from some consumers that they want the bigger back protector. They want that extra protection. And really, the answer to that is that we need to, and it's coming, is to have a suit line, not just one suit to cover all areas. So we need that lightweight protector that a racer might want to get through. And, the certifications and what they need to do.
So like the same kind of idea that you would run with pads. It's like, I want a shirt that has a chest and a back protection that's like the barely minimum, but it's gonna keep me from ripping the skin all the way to the kind of full on downhill protection. So it's what you're kind of explaining, right? So
right. Exactly. We have 6 different knee pads.
Yeah.
For different needs, and we need more suits for different needs, and that's something that we realized. And
yeah, I've seen some stuff like in the motorcycle lineup where it's like it'll be as like almost like a spider web of material with just pads in it, so it's like super breathable. Or then later you can get into stuff where it's like a freaking wetsuit with pads in it, like yeah. So I could definitely see that like trickling down. You said earlier that you guys started out with this molded helmet, and I'm assuming that you mentioned that because you moved away from it later.
We did. So we still have some of those in our line, but we're going down the path now. And COVID, unfortunately, it slowed us down a lot. Helmets were one of our toughest areas during COVID as far as supply goes, and manufacturing, and along with that, development. But we, moving forward, we're doing our own designs and helmets, and we have like the Project 23 is one of our full face helmet. That's our own design and development, and we've got more things, coming down the pipeline. That's ours, and that's the direction we're going. The in-mold, or not in-mold, sorry, the off-the-shelf style helmet is what we started out with. And it was, again, to test the waters and everything. It took us a little bit longer to come out with some of the stuff than we were originally planning because of COVID.
So you guys are doing the in-molding now, or?
So, well, sorry, I'm just so I understand your question, meaning that we have our own, more of our,
like, isn't there in-molding is like a different, it's like putting like 2 different types of foam inside of the helmet. And...
But sorry, you're talking about construction, and it's a little bit different. I said open mold.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
I said open mold is like an off the shelf.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I changed gears.
Yeah. In mold is a type of helmet construction, which we have in mold for our trail helmets. We've had this long debate here about in mold full face helmets. And when we came out with our Project 23, that was a long project, and we talked to a lot of our riders, even though they weren't wearing our helmets, just for feedback. And they didn't want an in mold style helmet for racing EWSs because they saw them breaking and they're just not as protective as a hard shell helmet.
Oh, okay.
So like when we launched our Project 23 helmet, our goal behind that, and again, kind of going along the lines with our protection, is we wanted to prioritize protection over anything. The Project 23, our goal with that helmet when we were designing it and developing it was to do a really breathable, as light as you can get, hard shell helmet instead of doing the in-mold helmet. And that's what we came out with. And I still believe that I have to check and see if anything changed, but our Project 23 ABS, I think, is the lightest hard shell helmet on the market that meets ASTM-F 1952, the downhill impact. And really that helmet's not far off a lot of the in-mold. It's right there with some of the in-mold full face helmets that are on the market right now. But our struggle in the in-mold was like, I see where I think an in-mold full face is good for trail applications. I think a lot of people see, oh, it's a full face helmet, I'm going to go ride the bike park or race downhill in it. And that's not what those helmets are made for. And that's a little bit of the concern in trying to have people understand that if you're doing that type of riding, you want a hard shell helmet. If you're going trail riding, then yeah, an in-mold construction helmet is good, if you can get a lighter version of it. So, but our trail helmets are in mold and, will be in mold because that's the standard for trail helmets, really.
Yeah. Do you guys plan on doing some kind of detachable face or?
That's another one of our internal debates for several years now.
Yeah, I can say when I talked to Brad from Cali, he his opinion at the time was I just don't think it's safe.
Yeah.
And he wanted it to be as safe as possible. So
yeah.
I would assume that's the argument that you're having is like safety over the versatility, or
it is. Yeah. It's something that we look at it is the safety aspect of it and what it does to the helmet. It's kind of a compromise, I think, to have a detachable helmet. And I think some brands have done it well for more of a gravity-esque type style helmet. And it's funny because if you look at the prices of some of those helmets, you can almost buy two helmets that are purpose built.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're looking at.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that'll protect you as well, if not better.
Yeah.
Because of that. So
the first one I ever had was from Bell, and it was a great full face helmet, but it was a crappy half shell.
Yeah.
Like it was just too big and bulky and whatever. And what I found from owning that was I really only used it as a full face.
Right.
And that kind of like set my mind later on down the road where I was like, I don't really care about a detachable.
Yep.
Because I either want one that's like, this is the full face that I want. Like it's breathable enough, or it like I can squeeze drinks in my mouth easy enough, or whatever it is, Yep. And then on the other hand, then the half shell that I actually want, because I never really actually found myself using it like the way that the marketing campaign would make you imagine you do it, like, oh, I'm going to take the chin off, I'm going to climb this hill, and then I'm going to pop it back on and go, and it's like, no, I'm either like full on full face or not,
Yep. And that's why it's funny, because we see around here, it's crazy. Like there's more and more people wearing full face helmets trail riding than there ever was before. And you see some in like moto helmets and everything. I'm like, how do you do that? Like I would be dying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's they either use it one way or another. And I had this discussion with some other people, both consumers and distributors, and they're like, well, it's nice, it's versatile. For the one time a year you go to the bike park and but okay, that helmet is not made to go to the bike park. You're
Right.
better off, if you go one time a year and you don't want to buy a full face, rent one.
Yeah.
Our Project 23 ABS is $160 retail. We do our M1, it's $110 retail. You can buy one of those and it'd be worth it for the 1 or 2 times a year. It's less than you're going to pay for lunch.
Yeah.
Almost,
Yeah.
if you're doing a bike park vacation.
Right. Yeah, for sure, man. They're gouging you like the ski resorts, right?
Right.
$15 beers.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of my argument against that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, I don't want to say, you'll see from us a dedicated, lightweight, full face trail helmet before you see a removable chin bar.
Yeah. I think that's the way to go. I really do. I personally don't have a need for a full-on DH helmet, like that meets all of the standards. But what I do have a need for is sometimes I'm going to a place like Downeyville where it's, miles and miles of just, hauling ass riding. And I want a little bit of protection to make sure I don't knock all my teeth out.
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean? But I still want that thing to breathe like hell. And
Yep.
and I think that's the market that's really appealing probably to the biggest group of riders. That there's a lot of people out there that you see riding those full face on like enduro kind of rides. And they're really doing it just because they want that little bit of protection, but there's no like midpoint,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's great. Like out here, some of the rides that we do, just our local rides, we're going higher speeds than we do at some of the bike parks here.
Yeah.
And on terrain, it's probably rougher on some of them too.
Right.
And I go back and forth about wearing a full face trail riding.
Yeah.
And the e-bike market is interesting too, because it's less, I don't want to word it, like you're still doing work, but you're doing a little less work for sure. And you're going at a higher speed, regardless of the work you're doing.
Yeah.
You're just
you're able to reach those speeds and maybe where your fitness level might not have got you there.
Yeah.
But
that's what, just saying on the climbs, like you're going faster on climbs, which the breathability of a lightweight, fully vented full face becomes a non-issue almost wearing a full face versus a regular.
Right. There's some benefits to the full face. I know every time I wear one, like goggles are just so much better than sunglasses.
Right.
Yep.
I can't wear sunglasses.
Huh?
I can't wear sunglasses when I ride.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but goggles I wear all the time when I have a full face on.
Every time I put my goggles on, I question why I ever wear sunglasses, because I'm one of those guys that just sweats ridiculously. And it's not a problem when you're wearing goggles. Like just the way that all the foam is on the goggle, it just like, it's not going into your eyes. It's not splashing onto your goggles. It's just like, you can sweat all you want,
Yeah.
And with glasses on, it's like I wear a headband. I got to like wring that thing out every so often because it just turns into this like waterfall of sweat coming into my glasses. And that always seems to happen like in the middle of a super technical downhill. And now you got this like wavy vision spot through the middle of your eye, But maybe I should just go full on enduro bro and wear the goggles all the time.
Yeah, see, I can't wear goggles with a standard trail helmet. I feel too enduro, and
yeah.
So I tried it once and I didn't like the feel of it.
Yeah, I've done it once, and I think it was more like it was just a hot day and I wanted to be able to still like use my water bottle or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting though. But the other thing I was trying to get at too was that because of the age range that I am, it's really hard for me to get myself to wear a full face. And I keep telling I noticed it with my friends as well. It's like, oh, well, I'm not wearing the full face. We're not doing anything serious.
Yeah.
But then we're going ripping like 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour down some rocky terrain next to a cliff.
Right.
And I keep getting to the bottom and thinking to myself, like, what is it like? When is it enough? Like,
Yep.
and I think that's where that midpoint helmet really kind of comes into play,
Yeah.
Maybe it helps me like get past that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I feel I'm like same age as you, and I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And more responsibilities and everything. And so I came from the ages of not wearing helmets.
Right.
I was racing and had to, but
do you guys have some kind of MIPS system or something like that that's equivalent kind of for you or your helmets? Or
yeah, MIPS is a sensitive. I gotta be careful.
yeah. No, I understand.
Subject with me. We did a lot of research on MIPS, and there's other research out there. I always thought helmets.org is a great resource for buying a helmet, no matter what brand you're buying. Go there, research the technology used. And they've got some reports up there that Snell actually did, which Snell is a motorcycle certification. And so when we designed the Project 23, again, looking at safety, and we worked with some experts on this, and the most important thing for preventing brain injuries is just taking that energy away from whatever your head hits being transferred to your brain. MIPS isn't an energy absorption tool. I say the idea behind MIPS for the people that, MIPS, again, they do a great job of marketing, and I think people understand what it's for.
Isn't it more of a side impact thing though for MIPS?
Yeah, it's supposed to create a slip plane. So when you crash, and if it's a side impact, the helmet slides on your head. So it creates a way for the helmet to slide, so that it's not jarring your brain because it catches. It doesn't really take away from that energy transfer, other than the ability for it to slip a little bit. The Snell study found that no matter how tight a helmet fits you, any helmet is going to slide on your head in a crash.
Right.
Your hair is a slip plane. Even if you're completely bald, shaved head, your scalp will slip on your head, but the helmet will also slip on your skin or your hair. So MIPS, because of the different, both, a little bit of that study and studies from people that we spoke to, brain experts in development, we don't feel the need for MIPS particularly. Our Project 23, again, when we were developing that, and that was the be a safe helmet that could be lighter, used for enduro or downhill. That's why we went with a hard shell on it. The hard shell itself will actually absorb a little bit of energy, along with the EPS, where you don't get that in an in mold. It's depending on the EPS. A technology that we use, we call it CERT, it's another layer of energy absorption. So it's like a soft foam, almost like what a knee pad would be, but a little bit softer than the knee pads that we use. And it's in a waffle pattern, so it allows it to smash to when your head hits something. And the sole purpose of it really is to absorb energy.
It sounds similar to Cali's LDL then.
It is a similar concept,
Yeah.
With the waffle pattern too, it does allow it to deform and twist and smash a little on your head, too, in the case of a crash, but that's not the main purpose of it.
I always kind of question that, the slipping with the MIPS, just for the reasons that you said. Like, even like on my own, before we had this conversation, I would always think like, well, this helmet, I can like have it on my head and it's going to move all over the place. And I don't know anybody that has their strap to their helmet tight enough that it actually holds their helmet like
Yeah, it would choke you.
firmly on their head. Like everybody's got like I'm probably 2 or 3 fingers you could stick underneath my strap is basically just keeping it from falling right off of my head.
Right.
Like,
I'm the same. Yeah.
yeah.
So, and
yeah, go ahead.
I say, yeah, and that's part. I agree 100%. But MIPS, they do a great job of marketing, and we talk to a lot of our dealers, and they say that people ask for it because of the marketing that they do.
Yeah, of course.
And they have data. The way they collect their data is a little interesting too, and it's talked about a little bit on that the study that Snell did, and it's not real world data, but from a marketing perspective, they do have people believing that's what they need. Buy a helmet.
Well, I mean, if it's what's in all the most expensive helmets, then it's easy for people to come to the conclusion that that's the best, but it doesn't necessarily mean it is the best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
well, part of the reason those helmets are more expensive is because it's in there too.
You're right. Yeah. So they have to pay the fee to have their product in there.
Yep. Yeah.
What do you call it? Licensing. That's it.
Yeah,
the licensing fee. So
yep.
Right on, man. Can change gears a little bit. Where did the name come from? 7 IDP. What was the reason behind that?
We get asked that a lot. I actually was asked that earlier today by somebody. So the IDP is Intelligent Design Protection. And the 7 comes from when we started that brand. There was 7 of us involved in the launch of that brand. So 7 Intelligent Design Protection is where the name came from. So nothing too crazy.
Whenever I say it, for some reason, I always want to say like 7 dip. I don't know. It's like I have this like this guy inside of me that's like, nope, you're dyslexic.
We get that sometimes, and it's funny because the first time I ever heard it was probably within this last year because we started, events started opening up, and I like going to the demos. I have fun. Like Sedona's one I almost always try to hit, although I missed the last 2. Some or the first one because of unforeseen circumstances, but I heard it at one of the demo events. Somebody saying, "I'll say, look, 7 dip," and I'm like, no, 7 IDP. Yeah.
So you were saying that the Royal brand is kind of like not so much in the US anymore, or is that like some of that accessory or like clothing line? Are you planning on kind of breathing more of that into the 7 brand, or will it stay separate?
No, so it'll stay separate. And that was one of the big debates when we started 7 too. We have a lot of debates here, as you can probably tell, but
that's good.
Because the easy thing to do would probably been start protection under Royal. We had the trademarks globally, and people knew the brand instead of launching a new brand and trying to get people to recognize a new brand. We want 7 to be an independent protection brand. And we only want to do protection. We don't have we have gloves in there because gloves are a protective aspect to them, or have a protective aspect to them. But we don't want to do jerseys, shorts, that type of stuff. We do socks as an accessory, and but no, there's no plan to ever move into that. It's it costs a lot of money to set up a global trademark on a brand and make sure it's protected. And the easy route would have been do protection under Royal, but again, having it independent, which it's double-edged sword, really. It's great when you're working with we work with some teams that have their own clothing brand. We're a sponsor of Specialized Enduro Team. We're a sponsor of Yeti's Enduro Team. They both have their own clothing line. So it's great because we're that independent protection brand that can go along with them without stepping on their toes for what they're trying to promote. Where sometimes you get these teams and everything that are looking for a head-to-toe deal, and it's a little bit more difficult to work that out sometimes because of having brands. But yeah, Royal, Clothing's difficult in the US. I think clothing's difficult in general, and that was part of my reason. And we're not a giant company, we're not a lot of the brands that we're going up with are huge compared to us. And with the amount of resources we had, I made the decision to step away from Royal a little bit on the US side, just to focus on 7 because of our limited resources. Clothing is a much more difficult business model. You got to constantly be changing things and keeping it fresh. And, a lot of the big players do spring lines and fall lines and things like that. And meeting minimums on certain things. Like if you want to get really creative and really technical on clothing, you get these minimums where you're just, the numbers are huge. And for a smaller company, it's hard to do. And then the other thing with clothing is it's really expensive to land clothing in the US. A lot of people don't realize it, but if you're making a jersey in Taiwan or China and importing into the US, it's a 32% duty rate.
Oh, wow.
It's expensive to do. And for us we explored different avenues of doing the clothing, but being a global brand, it's just Taiwan works out and China works out really well for getting consistency. Like we even talked about producing it somewhere within the NAFTA area, even the US, but just to have the consistency globally and again, meeting those minimums when we want to not just do cookie cutter designs on clothing. With Royal, it's not just picking a t-shirt blank, or not t-shirt blank, a jersey blank and running logos on it.
I can say the Royal shirts that I don't know if it would have been you that I met at Sedona like 5 years ago or something like that.
Probably. Yeah. It was probably
Then it must have, I'm assuming it was you that I remember talking to at the first event, and you had sent me some product, and those Royal shirts that I have from then, they still almost look brand new. Like the quality of them is phenomenal, like compared to any other piece of apparel that I have. Like it really blows my mind every time I see them. They're still like in that good of shape.
So we have one designer for Royal, and he's the guy he was one of the original founders of Royal. And he really knows his stuff. He wasn't formally trained, but he trained himself. And I was amazed, like working with him. I was over at a factory one time, and he chased in the sample room, he chased the lady off the sewing machine. And he's this big 6'4" guy, like he's pretty tall and everything. And he sat down to the sewing machine. He looked like a giant from this little Asian lady that was there. And he sat there and he sewed up a pair of shorts just from nothing.
Right.
And he's like, this is how I want it done, and showed it to her.
Oh,
and just
wow.
to see him do it on the fly there, like, was pretty impressive. But he knows materials really well. He knows patterns really well. And he designs all the patterns from scratch. As I said, we're not using blanks we're not copying anybody.
Yeah.
And he knows the stuff. So it's impressive to see. And the stuff is really good. And we hear that all the time. Like, oh yeah, I've got these Royal shorts from years ago. And
right.
It's same with me. I've got shorts from back when, so Royal was bought originally from Steve Pete at the company that I worked for previously. And we bought it from that company after they got bought out by an investment group. And back when that company bought it, I was like, okay, I need some Royal stuff. And we got some of the original stuff from back then, pre-2007. I still have some of it I decided to keep and not ride it anymore, kind of as a collector's thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have kind of like this evolution of Royal.
Oh, that's cool.
I keep, yeah. So that's kind of cool.
So there's a group of you guys that are involved in this, several different businesses. Do you guys like kind of commingle in the spaces, or is it like one of the guys doing tag, you're doing 7, somebody else is doing Royal? Like how does that break down?
No, so we have just one company. I shut down. I mentioned I had another company at one point that was doing helmet. I actually shut that down. This is a whole other story we can get into. We went into a merger back in 2016, which the short of it is it went really bad and we pulled back out of it in 2018. But I shut down that helmet company, or the company that I was doing helmets under, back in 2016. So we have one company now. So our parent company that we own is Union Sport Group. And then we have our brands within it, kind of like Craft or what have you, that has in the bike industry, Shimano with their different brands. Granted, apparel got sold recently. And so we run it as one thing. We run it as two separate companies as far as like the UK versus us here in the US. We work together in development, planning, marketing, things like that. From a financial aspect, we're two different companies, I should say.
Yeah.
But we try to run everything together. And then certain things we do break up in design world mainly. Like I mentioned about Nick before, and he was one of the founders of Royal, and he's come along Royal through it being sold to the company that we worked for. And then when we bought Royal, Nick came along as part of it. So Nick's focus is Royal. Again, being a small company, he does do some other things with us. And then, we have another designer that does Seven and concentrates on that. And then he also does a lot of our tag design because of his design background.
And tag is Moto, right?
Well, Tag is an old Moto brand that we bought, and we actually launched a line of cycling components under it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did see you guys have some like carbon bars and stems and stuff like that under there.
Yeah. So we have bars, stems, pedals. We did have saddles and a seat post. We since got rid of that. We're changing the direction a little bit, and we had a lot of new development again that got held up through the pandemic and just the craziness of that and long lead time and components. And people probably heard this, we're over 2 years at certain points through the pandemic for just production.
Oh wow.
So we're working on growing that brand. It took a little bit of a hit in development lead times through the pandemic. But our focus on Tag is more of the pedals, handlebars, stems. We decided to move away from products with moving parts like a C post, dropper C post, and saddles are just, it's hard. Even bars are hard. You look at our bars, they look the same as everybody else. It's our own developments. It's not, again, off the shelf, open mold handlebars. But when you look at a handlebars look the same.
Yeah.
Most people. We've got some different shapes in the carbons that, is unique for us. And, but
so it's just like your how you do your layup for how your compliance is and things of that nature.
Layup and shape, like we have an ovalized internal on our handlebars, and at the events we have a cutaway of one, so you can kind of see that shape, how we ovalize them to give some compliance but not give up strength and different things like that. We do some things that are a little bit different, and as far as the markings go on the bars, we have markings not only cut the bars and on the stem to line it up, but also to line up your brake levers and your shifters and your dropper lever, so you're getting that all even without trying to figure that out on your own. Or
no, that's actually nice to have. It's like little things like that make things so much easier. There was a brand that I was talking to about some stuff, and that was one of the recommendations that I had given them. It's not a handlebar, but it was the same thing where it was like, look, man, I don't know how much it costs to put some tick marks on here, but this would make my life a lot easier. Like.
Yeah. That's what we had, a competing brand at our booth at Sea Otter taking pictures, close-up pictures of all the markings. So
yeah,
it makes sense. It's something simple, and it's not something you can go and patent or anything. One of the things we were trying to do at the beginning, and this ended up falling a little flat for us, was on our stems, we were trying to work with the fork manufacturers to mark steer tubes so that you put the stem on and you could line it up with these markings that we had, or basically cutaways on the stems. So when you put the stem on the steer tube and lined it up correctly, the markings would show through.
Right.
And we couldn't get the fork manufacturers on board on that one just because of their production processes, and it would have basically slowed them down to do that.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
would be nice though. I can see what you're saying there.
but
Like even if it was just a little line, just one at least, you know?
and yeah, that's what we were looking at. We had two little lines the way our thing was. And
Right.
we did have some of the race teams that we worked with tell us that they actually used it with just a fine tip Sharpie and would mark through it because they're constantly pulling forks off to get serviced, and
Right.
that it made their lives easier to do that.
Right on.
So, but yeah, it was just different things. And again, we've got more coming down the road with tag.
Mm-hmm.
Just it didn't we didn't launch as many new things. We did an initial launch to get the brand going in cycling, and we haven't been able to expand it as quickly as we wanted to, but things are on the way.
It seemed like at Sea Otter, you guys are focusing on 7 though. Like before the booth would be like a little bit of all the products.
Yeah,
And now it seems like the booth is like it's 7.
it is, and Seven's our biggest line, and it's our biggest brand by far
Mm-hmm.
out of everything. And it's a little bit of, on the US side of things, I'm making all the decisions, and I like to focus on 7.
Mm-hmm.
Tag, being a newer brand, because we had those slowdowns with the new development and everything, there's not as much and as exciting stuff right now to talk about on it, where I personally, and it's almost like picking a favorite kid.
Mm-hmm.
I get more excited about 7 and where that's going and what we've got coming down the line and where it's at right now, even, and just the product in general. So we probably put a little more focus on that. Our trailer that we have out at you were out at Sea Otter this past year?
Yeah, I was there too. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was there at that one. I don't think I caught you myself there, but yeah, I built the trailer out myself.
Yeah.
I'm a trailer builder in my side time.
What'd you think of Sea Otter? It seemed like they are it was definitely better than the last one.
Yeah,
As far as like the attendance went, but I'm not sure if it like I don't know. I want to hear your take on it.
Sea Otter is always an interesting one, and it's one of those things that it's not my favorite event to go to.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we always need to go there as a brand. It's our most expensive event, and probably most brands' most expensive. It's probably every brand's most expensive event.
Yeah.
Eurobike maybe. But it's one of those things you just need to be there from the media perspective, and you're expected to be there almost. And if you don't show up there, I feel like people look at it like, "Oh, what's going on with them? What's wrong? Why aren't they at Sea Otter?"
Right.
Type thing. And we did the fall one as well as the spring one. I actually enjoyed the fall one a lot more.
Yeah.
It was less hectic, and it was better, more one-on-one time with people that came by the booth.
It felt more like a Sea Otter or more like a Sedona.
Yeah, a little bit without, the awesome riding. But
Right.
um,
Yeah.
I did ride Santa Cruz for the first time ever in my life, which was crazy, on the fall Sea Otter.
Yeah.
But
Did you get over to demo, or did you get to the trails that were not to speak about?
no, it wasn't the trails that were not to speak about, because I went there and I met up with somebody from IBIS to ride there, and
Uh-huh.
I'd never rode with them before, so they had no idea my riding level or anything. And
Uh-huh.
we rode some of the more usual trails, and at the end of the day, he's like, I should have taken you to this other stuff. He's like, I had no
Yeah.
idea, and I didn't want to ask you. And
But you rode like Flow then, or Braille or something like that over in Demo Forest.
I'm terrible with trail names. I don't know half
Yeah.
the trail names here other than the trail
Gotcha.
name of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was,
Bottom line is you had a good time.
yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it was fun. I would have been up for some more challenging stuff. Just but it was also a good kind of experience for them. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we were saying though, back to the Sea Otter. So
Yeah.
You
Sea
prefer the other events as far as like the kind of laid back feeling. Would you say Sedona is your favorite, or is there another one that's similar? Or
Sedona is my personal favorite, and I try to get to Sedona every year.
yeah,
Yeah, and like I said, I missed the last 2 years, or two events, I should say.
mm-hmm.
Um, I like the riding there. I like the atmosphere, the people. I think they do a really great job of setting it up. Anybody who's listening, I would say if you can get to go to Sedona one time, do it.
Yeah,
I think they do a great job there. For us as a brand too, I like demo events a lot. I
mm-hmm.
like having the ability to let people try our product out and try our product out on great trails that they can go and have fun on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Sedona, yeah, just the way they have the setup there at the park, the concerts, the beer garden.
Yeah, man, they have something. There's something special, and I keep trying to hear somebody tell me like, Bentonville Bike Fest is just as good, or like whatever in the Appalachians is just as good. You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't seem like there's another event that nails it the way that Sedona does.
Right.
And at least I haven't heard it yet. So that's why I was curious. But so how do you do that demo then at Sedona? It's like you have a bunch of pads, and when somebody brings them back, you like drop them in the gotta be washed pile, or like
So yeah, we have a table that we lay them out on. So people come, they get pads, they can pick. We don't demo every single model of our pads because it's just
right.
between the sizes and so forth. And we take extra stock in our trailer, and so somebody can come, they can get whatever pad they want. They can try several pads if they want. They grab them, they go out and ride. They come back and we lace all the shit out of them.
Yeah.
That's our sanitizing for the event for that weekend. When we get back, we obviously wash them all.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do is we do offer a discounted price on the demo pad. So you demo a pair of pads, you come back, you absolutely love them. We will offer you a discount at the event on that particular pair, so that one, nobody else has to wear them, and two, we don't have to take them back and wash them.
Right.
And like I said, we do keep extra pads with us, and we're able to refill that inventory if somebody chooses to do that, which I probably say 9 out of 10 times people go that route because they do like them and they want to go with them.
Uh-huh.
On occasion, we'll have people that'll demo a couple different models. Sam Hill's our big one, and that's our biggest seller at the events. It's our biggest seller in general.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Hill Light's another one that we demo a lot of. And then the transition pad, depending on the event, we'll take that one with us. Every now and then we'll take projects with us.
Mm-hmm.
We've taken helmets with us in the past to demo and have available.
So you don't normally do helmets then?
Well, we haven't recently because helmets we've struggled to stay, keep in stock.
Mm-hmm.
Still right now we're struggling a little bit with that.
Do you see a light at the end of that tunnel there, or?
We do, and it's interesting, and I think a lot of people are experiencing this right now. But we had delays, and now all of a sudden we've got months of delays coming to us at one time. So the light at the end of the tunnel, actually, we've just received some shipments, and some models we have stock, or we're starting to get some stock that we have in the warehouse for immediate purchase, where the stuff that we don't have yet, we should be caught up in July.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think moving into 2023, we're in pretty good positions there too, going forward. And this year is an interesting year because it's almost like a slinky effect. It's like, okay, there was these gaps, this emptiness, and then all of a sudden it's, the slinky's hitting and you're filling up on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's filled on the, all levels, at the retailer side, at the distributor side. And then I think over the next couple months, and as you move into winter, things will start normalizing. I worry that certain brands might have excess, and you might see a larger than normal closeout season. But then I think that'll work its way through as you go into 23. And I think 23 is going to return a little bit more back to normal as far as inventory levels and demand levels and things like that. More of that. Yeah.
Yeah. That big uptick from all the people getting into riding and stuff like that is kind of leveling out, and people are getting, like, the restrictions are laxed in all the states now. So people are maybe some people that only got into biking temporarily are kind of falling off, and like, I guess the whole thing is kind of normalizing. So so
there's sorry,
you're feeling like 23 is going to make it seem like it's back to normal.
I think so. I think it'll stabilize as far as the production and things like that. We were in such weird times with long lead times. It's production lead times over 700 days, and
that's ridiculous. Like I don't even know what I would do if I was running a company that sells products and my supplier told me, you can get them in 2 years.
Right. And it's like you how do you plan for that, for one?
Right.
And then the second part of it that we experienced was the suppliers were so busy with other things, they didn't want to think about new developments because they couldn't keep up with what was going on in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we had a lot of slowdowns with our new products that we were planning on launching for this year. But I think because supply is catching up a little bit, or not a little bit, I think for the most part, supply is catching up. You still hear these stories. There was a lady actually stopped in our office today talking about a gravel bike that she ordered a while back, was supposed to get in May, and she just talked to the shop today, and they gave her an update saying that it's not going to be available till October now.
Wow.
So there's still some issues, but I think, again, over our winter, that it's going to catch up and normalize a little bit through then, and 2023 will be more normal.
Are you guys a brand that like launches at Sea Otter, or are you a brand that kind of launches whenever? Or
we're a brand that launches whenever now, and that was another thing. With the clothing, we had to have more of that predicted launch, and because you have shorter lead times and everything, and that's why I like 7 and Tag a lot better from a business model. It's basically launch whenever, but we do have this backlog of product,
right?
And we need to have some planning. It can't be just like a random, like, hey, we're going to launch this now.
Yeah.
We need to know several months in advance, because we have to get that information out to our distributors, our export customers, our dealers, make them aware of it, and so they can have space and ability to buy it and plan their sales around it, and do their forecasting. So it's not like by the seat of your pants. Oh, look, we've done now. Let's throw it out on the market.
Yeah.
So it's still, years and months in the making, but we don't try to go by a model year or anything to that effect. Helmets, we change colorways and things like that. The gloves change colors from year to year, and we try to launch that around a certain time, but we don't get too caught on it. If we have a new knee pad that we're working on and the timing just happens where, okay, it's going to be available in June, then that's when it's available. For Northern Hemisphere, it doesn't always work out timing wise the best. But for our Southern hemispheres, it does. And it still, it still goes into circulation in Northern, and still works out. But we launch it when we're ready and not wait around or try to hit certain time.
Right on. You guys have a pretty good warranty on the 7 stuff. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So our warranty itself is relatively standard, where it's a 1-year warranty against manufacturer defects. And if there's going to be a manufacturer defect, it'll come out within that year. So we feel that's good. But something that's unique to us that we offer is we offer a lifetime crash replacement on all of our product, and that's from all of our brands. And it's a no question asked thing. So you have a pair of knee pads, and this is one of the things we run into with our knee pads more than anything else, probably, is you get somebody doing a hike a bike section, walking up the hill, and they snag their flat pedal pins on the material, which is lightweight in the back for, again, comfort and breathability. They rip it. One, it doesn't compromise the pad, but over time, if they get a bunch of those and they want to replace it under a crash replacement, they can. So our crash replacement program, like I said, is the lifetime of the product that you have it, and it's essentially 50% off a new replacement pair. And it could be something where you upgrade. You have a Project 23 ABS helmet and you crash it and you want to do a crash replacement on it. You can upgrade to the carbon helmet at that point if things have changed for you. Your riding's progressed and you have more money.
Yeah.
You want to upgrade, you can do that. And it isn't no questions asked. We tell people, hey, your dog grabs a hold of it and eats them. We're not going to ask you. It's something where we do want the product destroyed. And a helmet, we typically ask for helmets back. Shouldn't say typically, we always ask for helmets back when the case of a crash replacement. One, we don't know anybody accidentally getting on a helmet that's damaged and maybe they didn't know, or maybe it's been through a crash and they don't know, or so that's part of it. The other part of it is too that we want to study it and see, did it break? Where did it break? How did it break? Did it break in the way that it's supposed to break? Helmets are designed to break when they crash, and it's something we want back. With something like pads, it's less of a liability issue, but we also want to make sure that it's a crash replacement. We don't want it going out to somebody else where it's not 100%. So
you're just like, oh, I wore them out a little bit. I'm going to give these to my buddy and get a 50% pair from 7.
Right. So with like a set of pads or a pair of gloves or something like that, we'll usually ask them, just cut them.
Yeah, cut them in half or something like that.
And if we ever there is an occasion where we'll get broken foam where maybe it was too cold and they tried to bend it to straighten it out or something. And the case of the foam, it's pretty much a no question to ask. If the foam's damaged, we send you a new foam for free. Or new padding for free. But the crash replacement thing is something that's more unique.
Yeah, that's super rad. I had just heard about it, not this Sedona, but I think the one before, when I was talking to your guy that was at the event, and I was completely unaware, and I don't think I know of another brand that does that with their pads. I mean, I think that's really cool, because these things are expensive, and sometimes it is just like what you said. It's like, you caught your pedal on the back of your pads and maybe you only had them for 2 weeks and you like rip the whole back end of it open and you're like, well, there goes $90, like.
Hopefully a case like that doesn't happen. That would be
right.
Most of the times when we see the holes like that, they're little pinholes, and a little, sometimes they'll snag, a little bit bigger, usually never quarter socket.
Yeah. And I wasn't speaking to your brand specifically, but I will definitely say that the durability of the 7 pads that I have, I definitely have not had some of the issues that I've had with 2 of the other brands that I've worn a lot of, were just easily snagged on manzanita or the pins of the pedals or whatever the hell is around, and next thing you know, you got all these holes that you're either sewing back together. And the 7 pads that I have, the material is definitely it's still breathable, but definitely wears better than the other ones that I've used. So you guys are doing a good job there for sure.
Yeah, and we try, and it's a trade-off for sure. We want to vent it, we want it lightweight, but we also want it durable. Pedal pin, it's going to happen on no matter what pad you have for the most part. It's where sometimes we get riders that are newer to pads and they get that snagging because they're walking a little bit more even and they don't pay attention. Me myself, I've gotten those I rarely do because I'm aware of it. It's not something common for me. But that's why we want to take care of everybody. We want everybody to be happy. And that first pedal pin snag, I wouldn't recommend anybody running out and doing a crash replacement or anything on it. They're
Yeah, I know.
optimized.
Yeah, I was just trying to make up some
Yeah.
scenario in my head. Maybe it's an accident or something like that, where it seems like sometimes that happens when you get something brand new, and you're like, oh, this really sucks. I feel like if I ripped up a set of pads that I had for 2 years, I my knee jerk wouldn't be like, oh, let me get a crash replacement. It would be like, dude, I used these things for 2 years. It's time for a new pair.
Yeah.
But if I had them for like a month and I somehow, shredded them, then I'd be like, okay, I feel like, that would be nice to get a discount, because I haven't had these very long and they're expensive,
That's the nice thing, the way we look at it too, for 2 years down the road, if you got sick because you got 20 pedal pin holes in the back now, because it's just you're prone to pedal pin holes or something. And, we do see on occasion where the side material might rip in a crash on something like the transition, where it doesn't have as much of the side protection. And we want you to be happy, and we want you to be protected, and we stand behind our product, and we want return customers. So we want to try to take care of everybody as best as we can. And I can't say, we've had the case, because our guy that handles warranty will come to me and like, hey, look, this guy, he bought the pads a week ago. He sent me the receipt, and he just had a really bad crash and he ripped them. And I'm like, just send him a free pair. Like, that's technically, it's not a manufacturer defect. And the guy will admit that he crashed in it.
Yeah.
We're lucky. Most people understand the concept behind protection. They don't get angry about it.
Yeah.
But I just got these last week. I'm really bummed about it because I liked them.
Yeah.
And just take care of this case, because we try to be pretty fair on things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I think that's good practice. That's good business practice. I mean, you make the person happy like that, and they're going to tell 10 of their friends to go buy these, and that doesn't mean that 10 of their friends are all going to try to replace their pads right away. But like that good customer service, it really like trickles down. You can't capture it on some report, but it definitely happens.
We had a case of that at Sea Otter, actually. It was a pretty cool story, because this lady brought like 10 of her friends over to buy pads, men, women. She had a crew with her, and she's like, you got to get these pads, they're the best. And she was like selling all of her friends on these. And I happened to hear her talking about it and everything. And, we didn't have to get involved at all. She had it all, her sales pitch down to her friends on it. And I asked her, like, how did you hear about our pads? Because, we're still a relatively new brand. We had a little bit of hiccup with the merger I mentioned earlier, that we lost some steam there. And I asked her, and she's like, yeah, there's this really good rider in her area. And she was NorCal area somewhere. And he got a pair, and he absolutely loved them. And he, I asked him, and she got her first pair because of him. And now she's like, dragging a bunch of her friends over, and that they need to get the pads too. So it's kind of cool seeing those things, the unheard side of marketing. And
it definitely is. The other thing that you guys have on your elbow pads that I really like is that you have a little loop to help pull them up. And I haven't seen that on any other pads either. And it was one of those, like, just those little tiny things that don't really, like, it doesn't change the pad to make it like, this is a better pad, but it's a better experience. And it's just like little touches to detail. I guess it's not like a hoop that you could like hang them up with. It's just so you can grab it and help kind of pull it into place.
Yeah, that loop was actually multifunctional, and one of the functions we did away with at broadcasting, I guess, a little bit, because it ran into some issues, but it does work for hanging on certain things. Like I have one of those, cheap Target wooden drying racks that I hang my riding clothes on.
Mm-hmm.
The rest goes in the dryer. And so I use that and put that little peg that sticks out on the one side on for my pads to hang them to air dry.
Mm-hmm.
they work for pulling up, like you said. One of the other features of it was when we originally launched them was to be able to roll the pad up and then use that loop to tie around the pad to keep it rolled, so you could shove it in like a pack pocket or pockets. That way, if you didn't want to ride uphill with the pads.
Oh, okay.
We stopped advertising that as a feature because, one, after spending more time in our own pads through after the development period and really get taught, like, well, you can climb in these all day long and they're not really an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second part of it is, this material wraps up real nice when it's warm under normal temperature conditions. We had a lot of people from Canada where when it started getting colder, they were trying to roll their pads up like that. And when they're cold, they get fragile and they'll actually crack.
Oh yeah.
So we're like, yeah, it's not a good idea anymore. So we're not gonna do that. We're exposing it to some cold temperatures. And or they rolled them up in their house, stuck them in their pockets, went out to the ride, climbed up, got to the top, and they're like, how do I unroll these things now? So, but if you're in warm climates, it works out great. But yeah, you can roll them up and you can actually use that loop there, and it stretches its elastic and it'll wrap around the pads and hold them in a roll for you.
I'm not sure if I'm thinking about the same loop.
Yeah,
though, huh?
I need to grab a loose pair and I can show you.
Yeah.
But here, you know what? I've got.
Because I was thinking on the Sam Hill Light, I'm pretty sure it's just like a little tab, like a little blue tab that you can just like kind of pull up on.
Yeah.
And that's what the main reason that it stuck out to me was, I guess it is bigger than I'm remembering. So
yeah, so it's that guy right there, and it's stretchy and it works for hanging stuff, but
it's totally bigger than what I was remembering in my mind, I guess.
Winter time right now.
Yeah.
In the cold.
The other reason that I liked it was not only pulling them up, but was also like to pull them down because, that's right. Yeah, he's got it all rolled up, little elastic all around it. Right on. Because I get poison oak so easy.
Yeah.
If I had, like, let's just say I've had some instances where I ended up getting poison oak like down my arm or my tricep, and it'd be because I had poison oak oil on my glove, and when I would go to take them off, I'd slide my thumb in and push the pad down, and then 2 days later I'd have this line of poison oak down. And with your pads, I could grab that little thingy and just pull them off, and I would know that then I could wash my hands or whatever, and I didn't like infect myself more. So that's why it stood out to me.
Yeah, I used to get poison ivy really bad back east.
Yeah.
And a kind of crazy story is I had a full leg cast on. I broke my tib and fib riding 20s, and I got poison ivy down in my ankle somehow inside the cast.
In the cast.
And I went for like one of my regular checkup things. It wasn't even bothering me at first. It was weird. And the doctor cut a window down because I broke it right above my ankle. And he's like, you got poison ivy. Like, what? And it was just around the bottom there somehow. And I don't know how I got it or anything. And so they kept the window in there, and maybe they took the whole cast off, but when they put a new one in, they cut it so I could put calamine lotion and my poison ivy at the.
Oh, man, I hate that plant. Do you not? Where do you live? You're in Colorado.
Colorado, yeah. Yep.
There's no poison ivy or poison oak there.
There's poison oak here. I
haven't
had any issues with it. I don't know if I'm just not allergic to poison oak, but I was poison ivy. Or one of the trails that it's actually over by my house, and one of my favorite trails out here, White Ranch. They say it's down in the bottom there. I don't know what it looks like even, but
dude, I can see that shit from like a mile away.
Yeah,
I am like a poison oak ninja. Like I could be going down a screaming downhill, and I'll be like ducking under plants and.
I'm a rattlesnake ninja, so that's why my focus is rattlesnakes, and I miss everything else but rattlesnakes. And Yeah, it's
Do you
fun.
guys have a lot of those out there?
We do have a lot. And last year it seemed like we saw a ton of them. And one of the guys that I ride with a lot that works here, we'll get to a top of a climb, like, yeah, did you see that rattlesnake there? Did you see that rattlesnake? You're like, no, I didn't see a single one of them. And
Yeah.
I'm, I make sure, because we get the bull snakes out here, which look like rattlesnakes, but I look for the head and the tail right away just to see.
Yeah.
I'm a baby. I have a fear of snakes like crazy.
Oh, really?
And I had one coil up on me the one time I did not see one. And I see them, a decent amount out here.
Yeah.
There was a hiker coming ahead, and it was a slow section of trail, but it was kind of out in an open meadow area. And I looked up to acknowledge the hikers, and I was talking to them, and they were off in the distance. And I must have rode like right over it or near it, and it rattled. And I hopped with my bike, screamed like a 5-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Just like looked down and saw it while I was in there hopping, because I just like attention to it. Then I yelled back to the person behind me that there was a rattlesnake there, and yeah, it like coiled up and rattled at me. And
last year was the first year I ran into a bunch of them last year as well.
Yeah.
And there was one particular trail I was climbing that was, let's just say, steep drop off to the right and like high pitch of hill on the left. Yeah. And so this big snake, it was probably like 5 feet at least long. It's just like going up the middle of the trail. So it's like, you can't really go around it,
right?
Because, so we're kind of waiting for him just to decide to go like right or left. And it's just not happening. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to throw a rock at it. Right. and apparently you're not like, my initial thought process was hit it with this rock. And then it's going to be like, oh, fuck, I need to get out of here. Yeah, but, like, I didn't really put a lot of thought into it. Like, it's a rattlesnake, it's pretty high on the freaking food chain. So like it instead instantly went into like coiled, and like now it's in the middle of the trail just pointing at us like all kinds of pissed off. Yeah. And I'm like, how long does it take now for this thing to like get unpissed off and go,
Yeah.
And I'm standing there, and this other dude comes up, and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, hey, there's a big fucking snake right there. And this guy, like, eventually is like, he's tired of waiting, and he like picks his bike up, and he's like walking with his bike like it's a shield between him and the rattlesnake. And I'm thinking to and he had like an older, I want to say it was a hardtail. So it's like this huge triangle.
Right.
Like, I'm like, that snake can catch a fucking mouse from like 10 feet away, dude. And you think you're gonna like block it with your bike with the big hole in the middle?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Oh my God. I basically told him when he's like, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm like, look, man, I'm not sucking any blood out of your leg, so you're gonna fucking die if it hits you. So
well, that's what, yeah. I have this like unrealistic fear that they're just going to spring from like 20 feet away and attack me as I'm riding by and everything. And, as I get older, unfortunately I don't get on the bike as much, having a family and this and everything. Yeah. I'm slow on climbs, and that's my biggest fear is coming across. I'm like, on the downhills, I'm fine. I'm going fast enough. I can bunny hop over them or whatever. But yeah, climbing it still scares me. So I'm constantly scanning, but I see snakes, and I'll stop sometimes and show, oh yeah, there's a snake there. One time at White Ranch, we stopped, and there was a guy standing next to a sign to enter the next trail. I'm like, just step away 2 steps backwards real slowly. And he actually listened and did it. I'm like, you were standing right next to a rattlesnake. And he looked, he's like, holy shit, I didn't even know that. And yeah, we just like pulled up, and I just saw it there because of I've got like this rattlesnake radar going on.
I've noticed if I see a snake, then for the next like 2 weeks, every stick or crack or anything that's dark colored is now a snake to my brain. Like, I can't get it out. It's like everything's a snake.
Yeah. Your rattlesnake story, we were doing a night ride, and we were climbing up, and I saw with my headlight, one on my head, that I saw 2 eyes. I'm like, okay, it's, deer or something. And just kept climbing, and there was a group of us. And as we got up closer, I kept glancing over. I didn't say anything to anybody at this point because I thought it was just deer. And it happened to be 2 mountain lion
Oh shit!
Up there on the hillside above us. And when I, figured out exactly what it was, I told everybody else, I'm like, okay, just stop. I'm like, there's 2 mountain lion up there, and we all shined our light, and you could see their heads and everything, and like, so we backed up very slowly down the trail, and there was probably 5 or 6 of us, and got down to this intersection, and 2 other guys climbed up, and we're like, yeah, there's 2 mountain lion up there. You might not want to go up that way. And it was the same kind of moment between those 2 guys. And one guy's like, oh, I'm just going to go for it. I'm like, okay, good luck.
The cats don't bother me as much for some reason. Like sometimes I'll get a little creeped out. Like it's like, I'm a slower climber too. So I'm never like in the group, know? So it'll be like, especially on those night rides, and you're like, you hear what sounds like a Sasquatch. It's probably like a field mouse in the woods just running around.
Yeah.
But like sometimes with the cats, like I'll start thinking about maybe getting my head a little bit. But for the most part, I don't usually worry about them. But I was doing this downhill run once, and it's in the place that I ride locally all the time. And like right in the middle of the trail was the backbone and like all the vertebrae, like all the rib cage of like a deer, but like cleaned.
Yeah.
And it's just laying in the middle of the single track. So you're like, it's not like it's sat there for 6 months and eroded, like something put it there.
Right.
And it was one of those moments where you're like, okay, keep pedaling. Like,
yeah, the cats and snakes are the thing. Bears don't bother me much, or and things like that. It's just, I don't know.
Definitely. They're good reminders of where you sit on the food chain sometimes. Well, dude, we're rounding up to 2 hours here, man. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Super stoked that we got a chance to talk. And I always ask people before they get off the show, do you watch other YouTube channels and stuff like that?
I don't much. Like I said, I've watched a few of yours.
I always ask people if there's any particular channels that they like to watch, whether it has to do with mountain biking or basket weaving or whatever it is. But if you're not a YouTube person, then don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm not. I guess they post them on YouTube, so I would have to say the Raws from the World Cups are one of my favorite things to watch.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
I watch a lot, and I wake up and watch the World Cups every time too. Like,
nice.
I gotta watch them live. So
that's rad. Yeah. Been a rider all your life?
No, I started when I was 12, and I started because I wasn't good at it. I moved to a new area, and there was a kid that raced BMX, and he was way better than me, and I wanted to be better. And I suck at regular sports. I can't catch a ball, throw a ball.
Yeah.
And I grew up around motorcycles and stuff, dirt bikes, and that's why I got into riding. So
I think my story's similar. I always say I can't hit like the broadside of a barn with a rock.
Right.
Like I'm just not wasn't never a traditional sports guy, but like bikes was something that always just kind of, it worked, and so it was fun for me to get into. And I don't know, all the little punk BMX kids that I hung out with were just as into breaking the rules as I was. So we always had a good time.
Yeah, no, I had a good time riding 20s. And it's funny, one of my friends who rode, used to dirt jump a lot. We grew up in a big dirt jump area back in Pennsylvania, and I raced too, but he got a mountain bike, and we all made fun of him for getting a mountain bike. And I think I was next getting a mountain bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of caught the bug and went from there too on that side.
Right on, man. Well, there you go. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate all your time, Jason. It was awesome talking to you about 7 IDP. Oh, I almost said dip. and your other brands as well. It was really informative. And I think anybody that hasn't been to their website to check out their products, go check it out. It's 7 IDP, but the number 7, not the word 7. So 7idp.com. Check them out. They have Instagram and a Facebook and a Twitter too, whichever one of those you use. Swing by and follow them. While you're there on those platforms, give me a follow as well. If you guys are still listening to this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, hit subscribe. Watching that number grow makes me happy and makes me want to keep doing this. So that's always a plus. If you like it, hit a thumbs up. If you're a podcast listener, do me a favor, write a 5-star review over on the Apple Podcast review platform. I can't spit it all out. If there's a review platform on wherever you're listening at, I don't know what it is, SoundCloud or Spotify or whatever, write a review if it's a 5-star. If it's a 4-star review, don't waste your time. You don't even need to do it. Your time's more valuable than that. So everybody out there, I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Like I said, if you're a YouTube follower, make sure you hit that bell to know that you're to get the notifications whenever I'm posting when these are, because I am not following a schedule anymore. So now you guys know, it's up to you. Do that. If there's one thing that you take out of this whole show, remember, it only takes a bike to be a biker. So get out and be one.